Hi everyone. So my name is Sonia Lee. I'm the director of the Canada Climate Law Initiative. Thank you for joining us today for this info session. Today the info session is about our micro certificate program, which is called Climate Risk and ESG for Corporate Governance and Decision Making. And I'm here with the instructor and course developer, Alison Schneider, but she will have time to introduce herself. This session, as you may have noted, is recorded and it will be shared on our YouTube channel. And at the end of the kind of info session, we'll have time to answer your question. So if you do have any question, feel free to drop your question in the Q&A box. So in terms of the agenda, introduction, and then program highlights and expectation, learning objective, the curriculum overview, and then we'll have time for a Q&A, as I mentioned, and then final remarks. So as I mentioned, I'm with the course developer and instructor. Alison, would you like to introduce yourself and the other person that we can see on the screen?
Thank you very much, Sonia Lee. It's my pleasure to be here. My name is Alison Schneider, and I will be your instructor for the program. I am principal in Compass ESG Corporation, so I'm an independent contractor, and I'm also the former vice president and head of responsible investment at Alberta Investment Management Corporation. And I have a number of other roles that I do as well that are all fun that you'll get to know about. And then Gigi Daw. Gigi Daw is currently the VP Policy and Research at the Institute of Corporate Directors. And she was a co-collaborator with me in putting putting the curriculum together rather. And she formerly was of CPA Canada as well. Shall I continue, Sonia Lee?
Yep.
This is me? Okay. So the program highlights and expectations. So it's very flexible. It's 100% online. And there's basically one module per week over 8 weeks. There's 2 actual courses. So 4 modules for each course. It's designed in a funnel style. So starting off with sort of big picture, what is physical climate change, what is transition risk, etc., and the societal response. So now we're talking about transition risk to the actual role of directors and how you actually implement consideration of climate risk and opportunity into your strategy and your business processes using scenario analysis, transition plans, and basically how you assess climate risk and value. And the content is uniquely focused on Canadian organizations. So what does this mean for Canada? The fun thing about the virtual meetings, there's also peer-to-peer learning, so you get to know each other. There's case studies, etc., that we use. You do not need to be a lawyer. There's no legal background required. And the fee is $3,300 to take the course. And at the end of it, you get a climate risk micro certificate. You can actually post that on your LinkedIn as well. So you can demonstrate that you've done the program and you have you've gone above and beyond to gain additional insight into climate risk and opportunity. Next slide. So the learning objectives are to better identify and understand the role of management and the board. And identifying and then addressing risks and opportunities, climate risks and opportunities over time. So short-term, medium-term, long-term. To understand the impact of ESG factors broadly and climate more specifically on the organization's business strategy and financial planning. And you basically that this is material to the business process. It actually impacts the business. It could impact the business model. It could impact balance sheet, future revenue streams. And then building the capacity of the organization. So who in the organization should be dealing with climate change? How should they be dealing with climate change? Which committees, which departments? What does this mean? What are the new protocols? How do you actually address it, right? And then from a strategic perspective, what is the overall philosophy of the organization to address climate? So are you looking at mitigation strategies? Are you looking at adaptation? Are you looking at things like nature-based solutions, circular economy? Are you overall trying to build climate resilience? So discussing what that means, what that looks like, how you actually embed that into your organizational protocols, and then how you move forward on that. And also understanding all the evaluation frameworks that are out there. So no matter what kind of organization you are, it seems that there's another organization evaluating how you are doing on climate risk and opportunity, on your climate-related performance. So what are those metrics? What targets are stakeholders expecting? What are the disclosure frameworks and evaluation criteria? And what should you be using? And then how can you, using that information, how can you evaluate other companies? We actually end up doing a case study where you get to evaluate how a company is doing on their own climate-related disclosure and performance. So, which is kind of fun, actually. So at least I think it's fun. So there's that. And then the next slide, I'm not sure what we've got for the next one. Curriculum overview.
I'll take that one, and then you can take the next one.
Sure.
Thanks, Alison. So as Alison mentioned, it is 100% online with the support of the instructor. So not only you have like these live session for you to engage with Alison, she also provides support during the course. If you have questions, you can always write on the platform, either on the forum where everyone can see your question and kind of the reflection, but also directly to Alison. And we have also like office hours. So there is one module per week over 8 weeks. These are the dates of the 2 courses that compose the micro certificate. So the first course start on September 23rd and end on October 20th. You have like a 1-week break. So no like reading or like live session required at that during that time. And then the second course starts on October 28th to November 24th. 2024, and then you have a bit more time at the end also to submit your case study, because as Alison mentioned, that is the last module, and this gives you the opportunity to really put all together what you learn and think about how does this apply to a company and and then you also have the time and opportunity to discuss with your peers about the case studies, and they really exchange ideas and reflection. In terms of the platform, so we use a platform called Canvas. You'll have to download to create an account. It's very accessible. You have all the lesson there, reading materials, all the interviews are there, all the content is there. And at the end, you can download it so you can really keep all the knowledge and materials that you have gained throughout the 2 courses. And then in terms of assessment and grading, really our goal is not to fail any student, is really for you to learn throughout this journey with us. So, but in terms of assessment and grading, you have some online quizzes, participation in the forum, but also during the live session and the case studies. Alison.
Great, thank you, Sonia Lee. Yeah, so basically getting back to the funnel style that we were talking about. So we start off big picture, setting the stage, talking about kind of the why we should care about climate change. So physical climate change as a material pressing business risk and opportunity. So what are those impacts of climate change? And then in terms of transition risk, what has been the response to physical climate risk? So we're looking globally, from a policy perspective, from a regulatory perspective, and from a legal perspective. So we look at, for example, database, looking at the number of lawsuits that have been occurring globally, and the frameworks around that. When we look specifically from the board of directors perspective, so why should the board of directors care about climate change? What does this mean to the board of directors? And then going deeper into that, what does oversight of climate risks and opportunities actually look like from an organizational perspective and on a day-to-day perspective, from a day-to-day basis, from a management perspective and implementation perspective as well. So, but broadly overview, okay, for course 1, this is what it looks like. And then we move on to course 2, where we're looking more at the actual day-to-day, so implementing a climate strategy. So how do we identify risks? And what do we do about it? How do we flag them? And then from a mitigation, adaptation, and resilience perspective, how do we actually do that? What does that actually mean? And a lot of what we're doing for climate risk analysis isn't just historical. We're not just looking historically at what, for example, emissions have done in the organization. You also want to look at scenario analysis going forward. So how do you do that? What model should you use? What assumptions go into that scenario analysis? What time frame are we looking at? And what do you disclose from your scenario analysis? And what should you expect from scenario analysis? It's not a forecast. So you're looking at resilience measures under plausible futures. So what does that actually mean? How do we actually conduct those? And then what is useful out of that? And then how should that inform our climate-related decision-making going forward? And what do we do about metrics and targets? And what does a credible climate action plan or transition plan mean anyways? And of course, here in Canada, we're very concerned about greenwashing. So you have Bill C-59, for example, that just happened. So it's looking at all of these theoretical components, but also within the context of what's actually happening today and how companies are reacting to it. And then from a report and a climate and ESG reporting and disclosure perspective, so there's all sorts of expectations that stakeholders have regarding reporting and disclosure, but there's a difference between what you actually track for your own internal purposes and then what you share externally and which audiences you're sharing that externally with and what types of disclosures, what types of frameworks. There's many different types of frameworks out there. Of course, everyone's heard of the TCFD report. So that might be something that's embedded in your annual report. So basically, how do you do that? And then we have culminating all of this with a case study. And in the case study, we're actually drawing from everything that we've learned up to this point. It's an interesting case study. There's many different components to it. And it's ongoing, really, because it's a company that we keep reading about in the newspapers, and it's an ongoing situation. So very interesting to read about. And it is one of the oil and gas majors out there. So just fair warning. All right, and then the next slide. So kind of what the overarching principles that we're trying to get across here is that everything really begins and ends with governance. Okay, so we're calling this the perpetual cycle of climate governance. So it's really very important that the board understands what is happening from a risk perspective, from a climate risk perspective across the organization, that they're holding management to account, that they're asking the right questions, and that they believe the processes are robust. Okay, that's their oversight mechanism. And that really does inform everything else throughout the organization. So it informs policies, protocols, the overall philosophy that the organization has, but it is an iterative process. So of course, you can't deliberate on what is happening from a climate perspective until you understand what is happening from a climate perspective. So to start somewhere, the board is going to have to be asking management to actually start assessing or understand what they're doing to assess climate risk across the organization, right? So you got to start with some metrics, some measures first, and then it has to feed back before it can then continue on. So we're looking at governance, risk, strategy, implementation, and then evaluation as well. So you can measure climate risk all you like, but if you're not willing to do anything about it, what does that actually mean? And how do you communicate that to your stakeholders? What is important to your stakeholders? And so that's going to be part of it as well. Evaluation, and then going back all the way back to governance, risk, strategy, and implementation. Hopefully I've explained that enough. Sorry, I get excited about that slide. All right, next slide.
Thanks, Alison. So I'll show a few speakers that we have in the micro certificate program. I will mention, though, just to add to the great explanation that Alison provided, that this will be our third cohort. And every time we do a new cohort, Alison and I make sure that everything is updated, because this field of climate governance and sustainable finance, responsible investment evolves very, very quickly. So we really put the work to make sure that everything is up to date, so you have the latest information available to you. In terms of a few climate governance leader that the micro certificate features, you can see Dr. Janice Sarah, who's Professor Emerita at Allard School of Law, Barbara Van, President and CEO of UPP, Stefan Tardif, who's the Managing Director of the Climate Risk Division at OSFI, Barnali Chiduri, who brings really an interesting perspective about human rights with climate education, Dale Bugin, who's the EVP of the Canadian Climate Institute, and you also have Sheila Coleman, who's the VP Legal and Sustainability and Corporate Secretary of Luden Gold. We have more climate governance leaders that are part of the course, but throughout the two courses, you have access to these interviews that are very exclusive to this micro certificate, and not only to the recording, but also the transcript. So you can always go back to these interviews. And we have been told by the previous student that these interviews were very helpful in kind of like their learning experience and journey. And the last slide before we go into FAQ and any question you may have. So just a reminder, you can always add your question in the Q&A box. I can see that there's one and we will answer it afterwards. But the last slide that we wanted to tackle is that there is a grant called the Stronger BC Future Skills Grant, apologies, for a BC resident, which is really great. It covers 100% of the expense of our micro certificate. If it is open to most British Columbia resident aged 19 years old or older, regardless of financial need. And basically, this grant was designed to really build the skills of a world that is changing. And then it covers up to $3,500 in training, but ours is $3,300. So you can go on this website to have more information in terms of how does that work and if you are eligible. But we would strongly encourage you, if you're interested in the program and a BC resident, to have a look at this grant. So now we go into a question or an FAQ. So we have two questions, Alison, for you. So
Sure.
hi, the program page on CCLI has a video that says there are a couple of in-person sessions. So I can answer that, but do you want to answer
Sure.
this?
Oh, you go ahead, Sonia Lee.
Okay. Yeah, so actually I'm not really sure where that person saw this, but there's no in-person session. Everything is online. So you have to access the live session through Zoom. However, the first cohort had the chance to had like a happy hour with Alison when Alison was in town in Vancouver, which was nice, really to learn to get to know each other in person. And maybe this cohort too, there will be an opportunity to gather all together and exchange, but there's no in-person session. The next
The fact
question.
that it is live is very useful.
Yeah.
So it's not just it's not all pre-recorded. So yeah, I think that is very useful and dynamic, and we do some work in groups, so you get to know each other as well.
Exactly. And then the other question we have is, are the speakers in the course live or pre-recorded? And
Yeah, so so I'm live, but all the speakers that you just saw, Barbara Zvon, etc., those are all pre-recorded interviews that we've had with them. But they're very useful, and we're very grateful to them for taking the time, and they're all still very valid. Although we would, certainly look at updating those in the future, if and when that need would arrive. But right now, they're all very current.
So we don't have any other question. We have put some question that we receive from time to time on the screen. Again, feel free to add your question in the Q&A box. We can tackle a few questions, but I do want to share with you this slide first before going back to the FAQ. So if you register now and use this promo, you have 10% off. You can use this QR code or link to register. So maybe take the time to maybe scan the QR code or copy paste the web link. But this will be available also on YouTube, as I mentioned at the beginning. No other question, and you can see in the chat. Oh, there is one question here. the course mentions ESG governance in addition to the focus on climate change. Would a law like Canada Forced Labor Bill S2111 be in scope?
Absolutely, that would be in scope. So we don't talk, the course is really focused on climate, but there, to the extent that climate is also part of ESG, that is embedded. But climate in and of itself is a systemic risk, as you all know. So it lies at the confluence of many other risks. So it's not just environmental, it's also social. And there are going to be impacts for countries because of where they're located that are going to have social impacts, etc. So it could have impacts on supply chains. And to the extent that investors are trying to uphold responsible investment in their operational their operation of responsible investment, they're trying to uphold human rights, for example, in this particular instance, then yes, modern slavery, Bill S211, certainly part of that as well. So it's not a huge part, but it is discussed.
Thanks, Alison. Well, this question is about evaluation. They may have joined later the info session, but is there an evaluation to receive the certificate?
An evaluation to receive the certificate. Not everybody pretty much. I would be very surprised if somebody started the course and didn't get the certificate. If you complete all of the courses, all the modules rather, if you complete all the quizzes and assignments, you do the case study, then you should receive you should be awarded the certificate. We haven't had a situation yet, I don't believe, unless someone wasn't able to complete the course where that was an issue. So yeah, we are trying to help you be successful. So and not trick you out. So this isn't like your oh my goodness, this isn't like your Econ 200 class back in university.
Exactly. Yeah, the goal is really for you to learn and really continue your learning journey on this. But yeah, we still have a few requirements for you to get the certificate.
Mhm.
There's no other question, so maybe we can tackle, unless other question comes in, we can tackle maybe one or two questions in the FAQ, and then, of course, if you have any other question about the micro certificate, you feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to us at our info at email. We can drop it in the chat. But maybe one of the question that we kind of received quite a bit, Alison, is the course aimed at senior executive or more broadly across the organization?
Well, we are focused on climate governance as one aspect, and I just shared with you the perpetual cycle of climate governance. So I would say that it would have a lot of meaning for senior executives or board of directors. Having said that, I think anybody in the organization can benefit from the course. But certainly I would say that. I was thinking when I designed the course, I was thinking of the key messages to get across to the board and senior executives for sure. But I would certainly have applicability across the organization. So I know that's a kind of a nothing answer or an all answer, but I would say both, not one or the other necessarily.
Yeah, and I think if I can add to that, in our past two cohorts, we had like most of the student were senior business leaders, senior
Yes.
executive,
Yeah.
corporate directors, trustees, people who sit on board, but also
Chief risk officers.
chief risk
Yeah.
officer, chief sustainability officer, chief people officer, chief legal officer, but we also had students that were not as senior, let's say. And I think I dare to say that they gain a lot of knowledge as well, and that he can apply it in their respective role.
Right. But I think it's actually really useful to the course if everybody taking the course has a different perspective as well. I think it really adds when we having a diverse cohort and we learn from each other. So I think I think it's the aim is also to be inclusive in the course.
Yeah. And maybe two last question. And again, if you have any other question, put it in the Q&A chat. And otherwise, feel free to reach out to us and we'll be very happy to answer your question. So what if my firm hasn't made a net zero commitment? Should I take this course?
All the more reason to, I would say. I think that, understanding what is a zero commitment and what is a zero commitment not, right? A commitment is one thing, but following through is another. And it's really about understanding the fundamental impact of climate risk on the organization's business strategy, on their business model. The OSFI B15 guideline, really talks about, the key components. It sort of talks about the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosure. It's kind of like another rubric for that. We're looking at governance, strategy, risk, metrics, and targets. But it asks specific questions for each one of those. And I would say that, those are the overarching principles to keep in mind, right? Is what has my company done? How do we measure risk today? Does climate, do we understand how climate impacts our organization? And so I would say if your firm hasn't made a net zero commitment, then, please feel free to join. There's not going to be any, nobody's going to be, wagging their finger at you. This is all about understanding what the actual impacts to the company are and what to do about it. And what questions to be asking of the organization and trying to affect change management.
We do have another question, actually. So the
Sure.
program has a Canada focus, but does it touch upon the global reporting frameworks, such as GRI, regulation in the EU, as the region is more mature and ESG matters? Very good question.
Definitely. Yeah, very good question. And absolutely. I mean, Canada is a little behind, and I think this is important to talk about what is happening globally to understand that Canada is a little behind. So, for example, Canada does not have its own taxonomy yet, so we're relying upon the EU taxonomy. Some organizations have developed their own taxonomy. National Instrument 58107. Did I get that right? 58107?
Yeah.
Yeah. 51107. 58107. I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up here. But basically requiring issuers to disclose, publicly traded companies to disclose on climate, what they're doing with respect to climate, that still hasn't actually seen the light of day yet. So we, on a number of different aspects. So we just have the Bill C-59, the Competition Act on anti-greenwashing. That one has actually passed, so that's great. Okay, that's passed. But on a number of other aspects, Canada is behind. And the way that we see that is by comparing where Canada is to what is happening globally. So yes, we are focused on Canada, but with a view to what is happening globally and where we should be on that spectrum of actually paying attention to climate risk and improving the climate data disclosure landscape to better inform markets, better inform investors, mitigate uncertainty, and everyone's on the same playing field. Then we can better understand what is truly happening.
Great. Thanks, Alison, for this great
Sure.
answer. So maybe the last question I'll ask in the FAQ, and I can also answer it. We've received many times that question is, what happens if I cannot attend the live session? So ideally, you attend all the live session. If you cannot, it happens. We know that actually the people who attend this program and participate in the program are quite busy. So we totally understand that. Ideally, if you can let us know in advance, that's better. And then all the live session are recorded, so you can also watch them afterwards. And then Alison shares the deck that she uses during these live session. It's just you won't be able, of course, to interact with your peers and Alison during the live session. So that's a bit of a downside. But it's fine. But if you cannot attend all the live session, I think maybe we can have a chat together separately to see how we can best move forward. But it has happened in the past that student could not attend like one. I think the maximum was two, but most of the time it's only one session. So I think that's pretty much it. again, we put the email in the chat. If you have any question, feel free to reach out, and putting here again the promo code to get 10% off before this course starts. The QR code for you to register and the link. Very pleased. We hope that we will see you in a few weeks. It's always fun to get to know you and share, and I think we always learn from each other in these cohort, and this will be our third course. So I think there's just like a growing need for people to understand and get skills in climate governance. So we look forward to seeing you.
We hope you join us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.